this time next year? Thank you for your question. Mr Speaker, while top income earners have got richer over the last few years, those on middle incomes have become the new working poor, and those on low incomes are simply struggling to survive. And shouldn't the top income earners, Mr Speaker, be leading by example? I want to know from the Prime Minister why it's okay that his government has cut home care for so many elderly people so that they can live independently in their homes, while Cabinet Ministers get record levels of payment to live in their own homes. What about Ruby Martin? Because the Prime Minister said the other day he didn't know of any such people. Ruby Martin lives in Timaru, Prime Minister. She's 86 years old. She is so crippled with arthritis that she can't even hang out her washing. But your government took the $30 a week out of her pocket that she was getting in home care, while Mr English put in a claim for $45,000 a year to live in his own home. And I say, Mr Speaker, that isn't good enough. That is not good enough. And when people are struggling to put petrol in their car each week, why is it that the Minister of Foreign Affairs takes a $75,000 plane flight to Vanuatu when he could have got there for $4,000, Mr Speaker? Middle-income people are working hard, but they're finding their incomes dropping below the cost of living, and the lower-income people are suffering. I was in Magee and Close the other day, Mr Key. They wanted to know when Mr Key was going to come back to their street where he was before the election and explain to them why he broke every promise he made about what he was going to do to help, Mr Speaker. This budget has nothing on helping the 77,000 young people who are out of work. And I say, Mr Speaker, young people, when they leave school, should go on to learning or earning, not to be thrown on the unemployment scrap heap, Mr Speaker, not to be a lost generation, and not to be a part of a social disaster waiting to happen. I want to know where in this budget was the provision for trade training when the building industries tell us they need 90,000 people over the next year in building and construction trades. I want to know why the training package for Canterbury was less than the $55 million cut in training they made last year. And I want to know, Mr Brownlee, why 9 months out from the earthquake, not one person extra has gone into a training program. Mr Key might think that it's a good idea to recruit from the Philippines and from Malaysia for skilled work, but I say, Mr Key, give a chance to the 10,500 15 to 24-year-olds who are unemployed in the Canterbury region. Give them the chance first. I want to know, when this budget was meant to be about saving, why they have cut savings, every Kiwi saver losing $520 a year. Even Standard & Poor's says that that policy, cutting a successful Labour government scheme, will only risk damaging New Zealand by pushing it further into debt. And I want to know, sir, why it is that this government thinks that they can keep changing the goalpost, reversing the reversal that they made 2 years ago, and still think that New Zealanders will have trust and confidence in that saving scheme, Mr Speaker. I want to know why this government thinks it's sensible to sell state assets when no individual or business would do anything so stupid as selling efficient and profitable enterprises, Mr Speaker. National has learnt nothing from history. Nothing from history. And, Mr Speaker, this election will be about whether the National Party has a mandate to sell off those assets, which will end up in the majority being foreign-owned, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this budget is a failure. Mr Speaker, the government is simply tinkering around the edges with the problems that are hurting Kiwis, but it's not making a difference. We need bold and courageous action. We didn't get it. We didn't get it on skill training. We didn't get it on research and development. We didn't get it on taxation and monetary policies that would help the productive sector instead of favouring the speculative system, Mr Speaker. And we didn't get policies to relieve the pressure on everyday families that are finding it hard to make ends meet because of the soaring cost of living. Mr Speaker, I give you and the House this pledge that a Labor government in the next budget will put hard-working families at the centre of what we do. We will be driven by the belief that our country can be better than this. We can turn things around with vision and courage. There is a different and a better way of doing it, and this budget offered not one idea, not one plan, not one suggestion of how this country can go forward, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this budget fails.
Order. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.